I grew up in a musical family. All my brothers are musicians at the present time as well. Everybody professional. So we got into music 1968. Grew up basically in Eastern Kingston. I went to my first school was in Warwick Hills really. Was like a basic school, and from there to Windward Road Primary School. I went to school with Dennis Browne as well. So started singing with Dennis Browne like during lunchtime and all that, and started getting interested in what was going on in the studios. We as brothers had aspirations to be musicians from a very young age. We had a room that we said was a studio. When we were like 12 years old, we had this room that we said was a studio. We didn't know what a studio was. We just heard the name studio and said we wanted a studio. We just had like stereo equipment. Stereo equipment. So we had this room that we said, this is our studio. And then people started to hear that there was a studio around this house. So people started to come, like Bob Andy came there thinking there was a studio. Keith and Tex, that's how we met them. And I started learning to play guitar from Keith, who was the lead singer of the group. My brother Glenn, who is the bass player for Taurus Riley at the present time, he wanted to play bass guitar because we used to see, there was a band called Generation Gap, who, because we had enough space, they used to ask us for space to rehearse. So we used to see this band rehearsing and wanted to play the instruments that they played. So Glenn liked the bass, so he wanted to play bass. So my dad said he was going to buy a bass, but he eventually went away and saw a 6-string guitar and thought that this is better than a 4-string, so I'm going to buy this one. It was a regular guitar, so I started to learn to play that guitar. And then he went away again and brought a bass, so Glenn started to learn to play bass, and that's how we started to learn instruments, you know. Well, 1972 I joined a top 40 band in Kingston called Generation Gap. That band was the #1 dance band in Jamaica for a few years. Freddie McGregor was the lead singer in the band at the time. And we, being the youngest members of the band, we formed a friendship. And the band broke up. 1980 we formed a band called Studio One Band. I started playing at Studio One in 1980. Started recording at Studio One. Recorded on the Bobby Babylon album, Johnny Osborne's Truth and Right, and a few other Studio One people at the time. So we formed Studio One Band with the musicians who were recording at Studio One. Pablo Black, Baga Walker, Clevie as well, because Clevie was playing as well. And Steely at one point. And we toured with Freddie McGregor from 1980 for a few years, and the band broke up. I have been musical director with Freddie since that time until present as well.
There's no one for me to blame, but I will not give up so easily. Oh no, there's a reward for me. I mean, there's a reward.